It is common these days for the Australian Jewish Association, and indeed any politically conservative movement, to be labelled as fascists by the political far left. Let's face it, there is no one quite so intolerant as an offended leftist, and presumably this is the most potent insult they can think of without using swear words. We all understand the intention of the insult, which is designed to associate our policies and ideas with those of Nazi Germany. But just to be sure, I decided to check the references. In a nutshell, fascism is defined as a totalitarian, nationalistic, right-wing movement. It originally emerged in Italy during World War I, but spread to other European countries, most notably Nazi Germany, by World War II. Fascism is typically associated with concepts such as martial law, state-imposed violence, and so-called racial purity. So this begs the question, is it honest and fair to describe the AJA in those terms? Let's begin by looking at some real fascist regimes around the world. China may call itself communist, but it is certainly totalitarian and nationalistic. No democracy, no free press, brutal law enforcement and summary executions. It could easily be described as fascist. Russia also satisfies these criteria, as the poor people of Ukraine are finding out. And in the Islamic world, Iran is relentless in similarly subjugating its population, especially those who are not Muslim. And what about Israel? The anti-Zionists have described Israel as fascist, particularly under former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But as Israel's democratically elected leader, all he ever did was his job, and that was to protect his citizens from the institutionalised Palestinian jihadist violence that is the hallmark of their opposition to a Jewish Israel. And it is hard to play the racist card when under the Netanyahu-managed Abraham Accords, Israel has now made peace with some important Arab and Muslim states. So how does the AJA stack up in the fascism stakes? We are certainly nationalistic regarding both Israel and Australia, and make no apologies for it. We are strong advocates for individual freedoms and the democratic process, which means our rejection of totalitarianism should become a problem for the lefties who delight in throwing mud. Do we hate Arabs and Muslims? Not at all. Imam Tawhidi is a good friend, and we have hosted Mohammed Darwasha, who describes himself as a Muslim Palestinian citizen of the Jewish state. But we do take exception to Muslim anti-Semitism, which is unfortunately very pervasive around the world. We have no problem with Palestinian Arabs, provided they don't try to kill Israelis and Jews at every opportunity. The PA and Hamas-inspired violence does, however, present a slight problem for us in this regard. But if you want to see real fascists at work, you need look no further than our far-left political candidates, of which the Greens are a prime example. They have a rigid ideology that includes militant socialism, anti-Zionism, climate and gender wars, and reverse or anti-white racism. They will tolerate no dissent, nor participate in any genuine contest of ideas. The woke world also doesn't want a free society. With boundless arrogance, it signals its virtues and demands that everyone accepts its policies. There is no debate. You have to love those values, otherwise you will be cancelled. Frankly, this is the metaphorical equivalent of being taken out by the Nazis and shot. Even in this upcoming election, the far-left candidates refuse to defend their policies on Israel in the public forum. They hide behind motherhood statements, but still insist that they know best on everything and demand our vote. So, who are the real fascists here? Winston Churchill made the astute observation that you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. So, we at the AJA choose not to waste time dealing with people who simply want to hurl insults as a substitute for genuine political debate. We will continue to advocate for integrity and decency in politics, especially when it comes to Israel. We will continue to speak up for centre-right conservative values, such as less intrusive government and full democratic freedoms, and we will call out bad behaviour wherever it comes from. Does this make us fascists? Well, you be the judge. This is Alan Friedman for the Australian Jewish Association.